Massachusetts. This is Western Mass News on Fox 6.
Welcome to Western Mass News at 10. I'm Glenn Kittle. We begin with developing news out of Franklin County. Multiple people are dead after a plane crash in Leyden earlier today. Western Mass News reporter Olivia Hickey joins us in studio after checking out the scene in Greenfield. Olivia?
Glenn, Massachusetts State Police confirmed 3 adults were on board the small twin-engine plane, and there were no survivors of the crash. Neighbors I spoke with off camera tell me they didn't see or hear anything, adding their neighborhood is usually quiet and their thoughts are with the families of those who were killed. Described as a quiet neighborhood by residents, the area of Oak Hill Road in Greenfield was the opposite Sunday.
We received several calls that a small engine plane has crashed into the woods north of Greenfield.
According to authorities, 3 adults are dead after a plane crash in the area of Country Club Road in Greenfield. Local fire and police departments, Massachusetts State Police, and Massachusetts Environmental Police responding to the shocking scene just before noon. The FAA reporting the plane model was a twin-engine Beechcraft Baron 55. Going into Sunday evening, police continued to block off the scene. The view was limited. The crash located in the woods just north of where police were staged in nearby Leyden. Greenfield Police Deputy Chief Gordon shared the details on their response.
With help from the Turners Falls Airport and the Greenfield Emergency Management drone team, we were able to locate a twin-engine aircraft that had gone down in the woods in North Greenfield off of Oak Hill Acres Road.
The crash remains under ongoing investigation by the FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board. Western Mass News will continue to follow this breaking news and bring you any new information as we receive it. Reporting in studio, Olivia Hickey for Western Mass News.
Thank you, Olivia.